This is the video that I wish I had when I was just starting out. When people talk about lighting, it often feels mysterious, overly technical, or like something only high-end film crews really understand. Lighting feels like this invisible force that somehow makes or breaks everything. Lighting is not random, it's not magic, and it's definitely not about buying expensive gear. Lighting follows a system. And once you understand that system, lighting becomes predictable, controllable, and creative instead of intimidating. In this video, I want to walk you through the exact framework that I use every time I light a scene, whether I'm lighting a cinematic short, a YouTube talking head, a brand video, or someone just sitting on a couch with one single light. The process always stays the same. If you understand these concepts, you're going to be able to walk onto almost any set in any room with almost any light and make something that looks intentional. Now, I'm working in a small home garage right now using really affordable lights rather than my big production lights because I really want you to see that you don't need expensive gear. If you are going to invest in some lights, there are some features that you should make sure that your lights have to make your life easier, but we're going to get into that later in the video. If you are investing in lights and you want any of the lights that we're using today, I'm going to leave a link in the description. These are Lume Cube lights and they're incredibly affordable for the quality, and you can get a 20% discount of anything you buy using my code. But let's get into it. So lighting has 5 main characteristics. Every single light you see in a movie, commercial, or YouTube video can be broken down into these 5 attributes. You've got direction, quality, which is also called softness, color, intensity, and cut and shape. Now this order matters a lot. One of the biggest mistakes the beginners make is adjusting brightness first and then trying to make it look right in camera. Exposure comes last. If you change direction, softness, or color after setting your exposure, you're gonna end up redoing your work over and over again. So we're always gonna work in this order. Direction first, quality second, color third, intensity fourth, cut and shape last. Let's start with the most important one, direction. Direction is where the light is coming from relative to your subject. Now, this single decision is going to define your scene more than anything else. It's also the hardest thing to change once you start building your setup, which is why we always want to do this first. Whenever you're placing the light, you want to ask yourself 2 questions. Where's the light coming from, and how does it make me feel? Lighting direction is storytelling. So let's walk through the main lighting directions that you're going to see over and over again, starting with front light. Front lighting happens when the light is placed close to the camera, either directly above the lens or just behind the camera. Now this kind of lighting is very common in low budget content because it's easy. You just put a light near the camera and everything is visible. The problem is that front lighting removes depth. Now film is a 2-dimensional image trying to represent a 3-dimensional world. And it's to create depth, we need contrast. We need light and shadow to work together. Front lighting tends to flatten faces because it fills in almost all of the shadows. The cheekbones disappear, the jawline soften, faces lose dimension, but it also makes background control harder because the light that hits the subject also hits the wall behind them. Now, there's times when front light makes a lot of sense, like beauty lighting, fashion, certain commercial looks, and very clean YouTube setups can benefit from this. Now, if you do use front lighting, placing it higher helps. When the light is high and angled down, you can control spill more easily and avoid hitting the background as much. This also allows you to use flags or toppers to cut the light off the wall behind your subject. Now let's talk about butterfly lighting. Butterfly lighting is a refined version of front light. The light is still in front of the subject, but it's placed higher and we angle it down so it creates a small butterfly-shaped shadow right underneath the nose. Now this adds contrast while keeping the face still evenly lit. You're going to see this type of lighting used in classic Hollywood portraits, lots of interviews, and beauty work. You can see the cheekbones create their own shadows, which adds shape to the face, and because the light is angled downward, it's easier to control the spill off the background. Now, butterfly lighting does not work for every face though. People with really deep eye sockets can get heavy shadows under the eyes. If this happens, it's super easy to just grab a piece of white cardboard or a bounce card and place it below the face to fill those shadows naturally. Now next, let's talk about Rembrandt lighting. Now this is one of the most important lighting patterns to understand. Named after the famous painter Rembrandt, this lighting is identified by a small triangle of light that appears on the side of the face. The light is placed about 45 degrees off to the side of the subject, and it's also angled downward. Now this creates a beautiful balance between light and shadow. Both sides of the face are visible, but one side is clearly dominant. Now Rembrandt lighting feels natural, cinematic, and dimensional. It's used constantly in film and television. If you're ever unsure about how to light a face, starting with Rembrandt is rarely a bad choice. Now, let's talk about side lighting. Side lighting places the light roughly 90 degrees from the subject. Half the face is lit and half the face falls into shadow. Now this one really creates drama. Pure 90-degree side light can sometimes feel too harsh. So we can cheat it a little bit and pull the light slightly closer to the camera, around 70 or 80 degrees, and we'll get the same effect, but usually suit a little bit better. Side lighting is really powerful, but this one should be used intentionally. It immediately suggests tension, mystery, or emotional conflict. Now, let's introduce a kicker light or an edge light. You can use these in combination with any of the lighting setups that we just showed you. A kicker light is placed behind the subject, usually between 15 and 45 degrees off axis. Now this creates a highlight along the edge of the face, shoulders, and the hair. Kickers add separation and depth, and they also help the subject stand out from the background. They can be used on their own for really stylized looks, or you can combine them with a key light to enhance dimensionality. Now let's talk about a backlight. A backlight is placed directly behind the subject. This one creates a rim of light around the shoulders and the head, but it doesn't wrap around the face like a kicker light does. Backlights are excellent for separation and creating atmosphere. Usually, the light is placed high and it's angled down to avoid lens flare, unless flaring is intentional. Here's some general direction tips. Most of the time, lights are placed high and angled down. This feels natural because we're used to light coming from above, like the sun or overhead fixtures. But rules exist to be broken. So sometimes you want to see the shadows on the wall. Sometimes lighting from below is exactly what a scene needs emotionally. There are no rules that say the light has to be clean or realistic. What really matters is how it feels and the emotion that you're trying to convey. When you're watching movies, one of the easiest ways to understand lighting direction is to study the nose shadow. That single shadow tells you where the key light is coming from. But here's the part most beginners miss. You have to remember that lighting is dynamic. That means that one single light doesn't have to be the same everywhere in a scene. One light can act as a key light for one actor, but also a backlight for another, and even a side light for someone else, all at the same time, depending on where they stand, how they turn, and how they move through space. This is why blocking and lighting are inseparable. As an actor turns their head, their shadows shift. As they take a step forward, the light direction changes. As they cross the room, that same light can feel completely different. Cinematography is not about scientifically recreating reality, it's about interpreting it in a way that supports the emotion of the scene. If the lighting feels emotionally right, then the audience will accept it, even if it's not physically accurate. They don't analyze where the light should be coming from. So watch how the same light goes from key to side and backlight as she moves. Now let's talk about quality. Quality refers to how soft or hard the light is. Softness is defined by how sharp or fuzzy the edges of the shadow appear. Hard light creates really crisp shadows with sharp edges. Soft light creates gentle shadows with gradual transitions. What determines softness is not the light itself, it's the size of the light relative to the subject you're shooting. A larger light relative to the subject creates softer light. A smaller light relative to the subject creates a harder light. Distance matters in this. So a large light that's really far away can become a hard light, while a small light really close to the face can become soft. We can also use diffusion. Diffusion works by making the light source larger. So if you diffuse a light, the diffusion becomes the new source. So let's go over a couple fancy words. Understanding umbra and penumbra helps explain this. Umbra is the darkest part of the shadow. Penumbra is the soft outer edge. So hard light has little to no penumbra. Soft light has a large penumbra. So to control softness, you can also diffuse the light. You can move it closer, or you can fill the diffusion evenly, or you can even just adjust the beam spread. Soft light smooths out skin and reduces texture. Hard lights emphasize and add more texture. When extending practical lights like windows or lamps, soft film lights are usually more forgiving than harder ones. So next, we're going to talk about color. Color comes from color temperature, or RGB color. Color temperature describes how warm or cool the light appears. A lower Kelvin number is warmer. Higher Kelvin numbers are cooler. Your camera has to be white balanced to interpret what white should look like under these lights. So matching white balance to your key light is going to create a neutral balance. If you mismatch these settings without intention, it's just going to look bad. But if you understand these settings and their concepts, then you can create mood really easily just by changing these settings. Balancing color temperature creatively allows you to simulate the time of day, emotion, and the environment. RGB lighting and gels allow you to introduce color by filtering out certain wavelengths. It gets a lot more complicated, and we're going to cover it in a later course, but just know that gels are going to reduce intensity, which is why intensity comes later in the setup. So we might as well talk about intensity. Intensity is basically just brightness. Exposure relationships matter, but what matters creatively is contrast. So the key light to fill light ratio controls facial contrast. So if you've ever heard the terms like 2:1 or 8:1, that basically tells you mathematically how dark one is compared to the other. So just like a key and fill ratio control facial contrast, you also want to pay attention to foreground and background ratios, which control separation. A 1-stop difference is subtle, but a 3 or 4 stop difference is really dramatic. So when adding a fill light, it should feel ambient, not directional. Sometimes the light bounces off of walls or things in the environment, so you can use a negative fill if you want to remove unwanted light and deepen the shadows from the fill side. Foreground to background control is achieved several ways. You can achieve it through spacing, like moving the subject farther or closer to the background. You can separate the lights, you can use flags, grids, and blocking. Finally, we're going to talk about cut and shape. Now, this is where we refine the light. Things like flags, cutters, and toppers shape the light. Be sure to check out the description. I'll add a few links to some affordable ones you can try if you're interested. The further the flag is from the light source, the cleaner the cut's going to be. And flags should always be placed after your diffusion, not before it. If you understand these 5 characteristics and you work in this order that I'm telling you, lighting becomes faster, cleaner, and more intentional. This framework has guided me for years. It works on big sets and small ones. It's all the same. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. Lighting is not about the gear you have. Lighting is about decisions. Once you understand the decisions, the gear becomes secondary. And this is how you start lighting with confidence. If this video helped you out, be sure to like and subscribe and share it so YouTube knows to share it with other aspiring filmmakers. And don't forget to check out the description for suggestions and a 20% discount on any of these Lume Cube lights that I'm using if you're interested in those. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy one of these other videos as well. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next video.